I'm Nintendo.
And I'm Sega. This is Console Wars!
Previously on Console Wars. I want to win. You should play this. Okay. I lost. Play this. Why? Because I'm you. Present day.
So we should compare Final Fight 3 to Streets of Rage 3.
Really? But you already lost the first two games. It's pointless to compare the third ones.
It's no use. He doesn't want to compare the game. He's just saying that because he knows his game won't win. You just need to convince him to play. And how am I supposed to do that? How do you convince anybody to do anything? Nag them until they change their mind. Come on.
No.
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 Come on.
Fine. Alright. We'll compare Final Fight 3 and Streets of Rage 3. Okay? Yeah!
Final Fight 3, known as Final Fight Tough in Japan, was released by Capcom exclusively for the Super Nintendo in 1995. It continued the beat-em-up tradition of the first two Final Fights with added elements. It was eventually re-released for the Wii Virtual Console.
Streets of Rage 3, known as Bare Knuckle 3 in Japan, was released exclusively for the Sega Genesis in 1994. This game also continued in the same vein of its predecessors with several enhancements. They were re-releases in Sega Collections, Wii Virtual Console, PSN, and Xbox Live. Two games, both concluding their series. Which one's better? Let's find out.
Final Fight 3 is a superior looking game.
The characters look great. Old characters have been given a fresh, updated look. New characters complement this established world nicely. There's still that fine level of detail these games have been accustomed to. The bosses and levels all maintain a unique, memorable look. The animations improve too. Goodbye cardboard cutouts, hello characters that breathe.
That still doesn't look as good as my game.
This game truly maintains the look of its predecessor. It follows the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. All the characters have the same classic look from the previous game. New characters and bosses all look great too. The level design is excellent. It's not just pretty, but busy too. There's lots of stuff going on in the background. You can even make some of the background shake. And smooth animation is a given. Seeing how this game is pretty much Streets of Rage 2.
Comparing Streets of Rage 3 to Streets of Rage 2. Bold moves in Streets of Rage.
2 is better than Streets of Rage 3. Yeah, I know.
You do?
Yeah, so does everyone.
Oh, that was kind of my whole argument. The ace up my sleeve. My big reveal. I even had a song too, like the time you had a song.
Go ahead. It doesn't exactly mean that Final Fight 3 is better than Streets of Rage 3.
Why 2 is better than 3?
2 is better, but better than 3.
Look at these characters! So many of them look exactly the same as the previous game. It makes you wonder, why did they even make a third game? Since this game looks exactly like the second game, just keep playing that game. This game is pointless, since almost everyone looks identical. I say almost because they did make some changes. Odd changes. What color should Axel's shirt be that was white in the two previous games? How about pit stain yellow? That'll look good! Why didn't they change the character models like they did from 1 to 2? They should have given this game its own distinguishable look. Instead, you have a game that looks like a lame copy, and ultimately, forgettable.
Just because you don't like the graphics compared to 2 doesn't mean that your game looks better.
Sure, A lot of the characters look the same, but they still look good, and the new characters definitely look good. Let's look at the levels. On Final Fight 3, this level on the pier has a nice looking sunset, and it stays like that the whole time. Streets of Rage 3 also has a sunset on a pier level. It must have been a thing back then. Anyways, it looks simple at first, but after time, you notice that the lighting changes. It's little details like this that give the game its charm. And smooth animation? This is just as smooth as Streets of Rage ever was. Now look at Final Fight 3. Talk about the king of choppy. I think this might be the most choppy game in the whole franchise. Maintaining the excellent look and animation of the previous game, graphics go to Sega.
You can't beat a Capcom game.
This game pulled out all the stops. The character select looks great. The game over screens are always fun in Final Fight games. And then you have your cutscenes. You have your intro, your cutscenes in between levels, which aren't just text anymore. Then you have multiple endings depending on your character and difficulty.
Here's where Streets of Rage 3 really made improvements.
The character select is pretty cool in my game, but where this game really improved is the cutscenes. There's finally a cohesive story to bring all the action together. You have your intro, new cutscenes in between levels, and multiple endings, depending on the difficulty and certain actions during the game.
The presentation is much improved over the previous game. Looks like you can't use your song.
Oh, really? Because I can just change a few lyrics.
Final Fight 3's better. Better, Streets of Rage 3.
Sure, both games have cutscenes, but Final Fight 3 is definitely better. It's not just pictures, the characters actually move. Streets of Rage 3 is just pictures with some dialogue. The worst part about Sega's cutscene is that there's no music. Just nothing. Super Nintendo goes above and beyond with music and characters that move. Best presentation goes to Nintendo.
If you want, we can skip sound. This is a Streets of Rage game after all.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah, no need to embarrass you again.
I mean, I guess. Wait, what's going on there?
What? This? Winter. It's cold.
No, that's not it. You seem nervous. But why? What can make you nervous as we're about to skip listening to each other's music? Oh well, let's just wait. Your music must be no good.
What? This is a Streets of Rage game. Music's awesome.
It's got some good beats. It keeps you pumped up. So ahead of its time.
Ahead of its time. Translation, bad. Final Fight 3 has much better tunes.
This soundtrack rocks. These songs are awesome. It's perfect for a beat 'em up.
No way.
Are you serious? How do you not realize how bad your music is?
You're just jealous.
Really? Why 2 was better than 3?
2 is better. Better than 3.
Even I can admit Streets of Rage 2 has an amazing soundtrack. To follow it up with this is a slap in the face. The music is nowhere near as good. You can't beat people up to this. Two had a soundtrack that was dancing, but at a reasonable beat. This game just sounds ridiculous.
And that's just the music. The voiceovers are worse too.
They replaced the cool voiceovers of 2 with these lame ones. Just take a listen.
But you hated those voiceovers in 2. You made fun of how you couldn't understand them.
Yeah, but they were still better than what I'm hearing now.
Since Sega has a subpar soundtrack and voiceovers that sound awful, sound goes to Nintendo.
Final Fight 3 has a better gameplay.
It plays like your typical beat 'em up with attacks, jumping, and a special move. However, there are also lots of gameplay additions not available in previous Final Fight games. There's a new dash feature. This can turn into a dash jump or dash attack. Special moves were also added by inputting a move just like Street Fighter. There's also a gauge that allows you to do a super move. So much more variety than before gives Final Fight 3 solid gameplay.
Streets of Rage 3 has that beat.
This game also improves on its predecessor with new moves. In addition to the regular attacks and special moves from Streets of Rage 2, running and vertical dash were added. A power meter was added to perform the special moves without taking away any life. And now, you can actually perform special moves with certain weapons. Your special move can even get stronger as you gain a certain amount of points and don't die. With so many improvements, gameplay has to go to Sega.
Looks like it's time for 2 was better than 3.
2 is better, better than 3.
I already said this game looks exactly like 2, and now it plays exactly the same. All your moves, punching, jumping, your super moves, and your specials are exactly the same as 2. And since it plays like 2, why even make a third game? The new features of running and moves with weapons don't add much. Certainly not enough to merit another game. Again, they changed the moves from 1 to 2, so why didn't they do that here? Given the characters' new special moves would have made this game more unique. Instead, they just added some useless moves and hope people wouldn't notice that they're being ripped off.
You keep comparing my game to its predecessor, but that still doesn't mean that your game's better than mine.
So Final Fight 3 finally added some variety to the franchise, but the mechanics are all broken. To enter moves, you enter Street Fighter-like commands like down and forward punch. The problem is that it doesn't work in a brawler. Street Fighter is 2D, so when you enter the moves, the game is on point. You move that into an area that moves in 3D, and all of a sudden, those moves aren't as receptive. Instead, you're trying to execute moves and getting them only about 25% of the time. Every time you get a special move, it's just luck. Make fun of Streets of Rage 3 all you want, but at least the moves are easy to pull off and receptive 100% of the time. It's not an innovative sequel, but it's still better than your game.
I had a feeling you'd say that. That's why I saved my trump card for now.
One cool feature in my game is how many characters you have to play. Say you want to play 2-player, but you don't have a friend around. No problem. You can have the computer be player 2. You can't do that in Streets of Rage 3.
Yeah, the reason they have that is because it's so hard to get anybody to play your crappy game. It's not a problem for Streets of Rage games.
Oh yeah, sure, that's the reason. Not because you don't have any friends. When you invite your entire class to play video games at your house for your 10th birthday party, only your grandma shows. What? I said that's not the reason. Anyway, Final Fight 3 has tons of cheat codes to enhance the gameplay experience.
You have your debug mode to enter various codes. Being able to kill all the enemies on screen with the touch of a button is ridiculously fun.
You call those cheat codes? Let me show you some real cheat codes.
Streets of Rage 3 is loaded with cheat codes. First off, you can make 2 bosses playable characters in the game. 3 if you're playing Bare Knuckle 3. You can also have 2 people play as the same player at the same time. There's also ways to play as super versions of the main characters. Throw in codes for level select and extra lives, and you've got a replay value through the roof.
With all these bonus features and solid beat 'em up action, gameplay goes to Sega.
Hold on! Gameplay's supposed to go to Final Fight 3!
Says who?
Says me! And future me!
What?
That's right! Me from the future says my game's better, so best gameplay goes to... Gameplay has to go to Sega. Wait, why? But I'll lose! What are you doing? What I always meant to do.
beat you senseless.
No, it can't be. Streets of Rage 3 is just Streets of Rage 2.
You keep saying that, but yeah, that doesn't change the fact that it's still better than Final Fight 3.
No,
Stop. Just listen. Even though Final Fight 3 made many improvements, best beat 'em up game still goes to Streets of Rage 3.
It has better graphics that are copied. It actually has cutscenes, even though they could be better. The music's not bad, but it leaves something to be desired. And the gameplay is basically Streets of Rage 2 Plus. You might be thinking, with so many flaws, how is this game better? Well, part of the reason this game gets a lot of flack is because it's too much like Streets of Rage 2. Also, Streets of Rage 2 set the bar so high, with such an improvement over its predecessor, it was very disappointing that Streets of Rage 3 barely had any improvements. Having said that, it did retain a whole lot of what made Streets of Rage 2 so great, mostly the gameplay. Even if it's considered a poor copy of 2, it's still better than most beat 'em ups, including Final Fight 3, who tried but didn't quite hit the mark. Final Fight 3 added a lot of new gameplay mechanics, but they're flawed. Street Fighter controls just don't work in a brawler. While an enjoyable game, compared to Streets of Rage 3, it falls flat. Best game goes to Streets of Rage 3.
Come on, you know my game's better.
It's not bad. You tricked me pretty bad.
You know what would make you feel better? Fake abs for everyone. Yeah!
Thanks for checking out our latest video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And keep suggesting games for us to compare. We will get to them, even though we kinda cheated with this one. Also, check us out on Facebook and Twitter for behind the scenes stuff. Later.